Hi, Steve.
Hello. Sorry, I was muted.
How are you?
Good, yeah.
Oh, good. Where are you based?
Right now I'm coming from Kingston, Ontario in Canada.
Ah,
Do you
Yeah.
also have snow?
Oh yeah, we got lots of snow
Yeah.
here today. Yeah.
There've been a lot of snow talks. I had to ask the mandatory snow question.
Yeah.
It's snowing here as well, but
Yeah.
I'm not happy about it.
Oh boy.
You
I'm
don't
happy
have to
about
be
it.
happy.
I'm still happy about it.
Yeah, you're happy about it. Yeah. You get to go skiing. I would break every bone in my body if I even tried to go skiing.
Oh yeah. Haven't gone skiing in a long time.
But Canada
Well-
is a hockey country.
Yeah. I never played when I was a kid. I know how to skate, but I never played hockey. I am mad at my parents about that. They never put it out on me. Yeah.
There's a lot of curling as well, isn't it?
Yeah, curling is really actually super fun. I got into it in like the 2010 Olympics when it was in Vancouver. Me and my wife
Yeah.
watch it all the time on the Olympics now. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's my mom's favorite as well. So I've seen a fair share of curling in my days.
Okay. Wait, let me just to get this hidden. Okay. So, hello everyone. Sorry about the late start. My name is Steve Bilogan. I'm a developer on the Uno platform. And I'm excited today to talk to you about how we can utilize the power of WinUI and bring that experience and those capabilities to all platforms. Yes, all platforms. So let's get started. So I'm going to try and go really quick because I don't want this freaking fire alarm to go off again. So let's just start by making sure we all have a baseline understanding of what WinUI is. Sam just talked about it a little bit from the last talk, so that was awesome. So, I forgot to mention these slides are all taken from the next few slides on WinUI are taken from Ryan Demopoulos' talk at UnoConf 2020, which you can check out on YouTube if you're interested. So over the years, from a Windows perspective, there's been about 4 major UX frameworks. There's been MFC, WinForms, and in 2006, the big one was WPF, which introduced XAML, a sophisticated animation system, data binding. It's really a fountain of innovation for developing Windows applications. And then came along in 2012, similar in nature, but an evolution of WPF was the UWP XAML. So it introduced things like the Fluent design system, more advanced animations, and it had new controls that went above and beyond WPF. And so UWP XAML as a framework was created for Uwp Apps, which are those Windows 10 store apps. They run in that sandbox, not the Win32 desktop apps. So basically there are 2 types of Windows apps, like the UWP ones I just mentioned, those Windows 10 apps, and the Win32 apps that are developed mostly with the frameworks on the left. So this leads into some challenges that you kind of get using UWP XAML. The first of which is it can't be used by all app types. So basically, the latest and greatest UX framework from Microsoft is only available for UWP apps. So there's a huge audience of desktop and Win32 devs that aren't able to use the latest, most modern UX stack from Windows. Number 2 is that UWP XAML is baked into the OS itself. So it's hard to deliver new features because basically, if you have a new feature, say when they implemented Xbind as a feature in UWP XAML, that needs to ship with an actual new version of the Windows operating system itself. You can't just update UWP XAML framework and have it run everywhere. And lastly, because it's baked into the OS itself, you can get inconsistent behaviors across Windows OS versions. Because basically, say there was a bug in Xbind that they fixed and shipped with the next version of Windows, well, only that version of Windows will have that fix, and it'll act differently from different versions of Windows. So basically, it's like a compatibility nightmare. So this is where the WinUI 2 library came to be. So it is WinUI 2 itself here is just a small library of WinUI 2 library is just a small library of controls and styles that sit on top of UWP XAML framework. So it's decoupled, the library itself, the WinUI 2 library is decoupled from the Windows OS, but the UWP XAML framework that it sits on top of and uses is still baked into the OS itself. So this solves some of the challenges that were mentioned previously. Number one being that you can backport features. You can backport features on day one, regardless of the OS version. Number two, so basically the opposite of the disadvantages from before. So you have consistent behavior across OS versions. So basically you have one central repository of where your implementation of your something like a number box exists. So it'll behave the same no matter which version of Windows you're running. And again, because it's no longer baked into the OS, you get this flexibility to ship new features and new fixes whenever you need. You're not tied to the OS version anymore. So that is what is called WinUI 2. Really, is the second generation of WinUI, which is a combination of that standalone WinUI 2 library and the UWP, which sits on top of that UWP XAML framework that's baked into the OS itself. So the next step, obviously, would be to decouple all of WinUI from the operating system. So not just this smaller library, but all of this should be decoupled from the operating system itself. And that's where WinUI 3 comes into play. So it's taking this second generation WinUI and lifting it all out of the OS to bring all the UX features into one decoupled library. And that's WinUI 3. And one of the major things, or the defining characteristic of WinUI 3 over WinUI 2, is that WinUI 3 will work across all app types, so including Win32 and desktop applications and UWP apps like it does already. So I did that really quick, but just now that we have a baseline understanding of like the goals of WinUI and why it was done and what it's here for, I want to answer the question of what is the Uno platform and how are we taking these features and capabilities of WinUI and bringing them above and beyond Windows to all platforms. So the problem when trying to tackle a project that stretches across multiple platforms is, and this slide is in everyone's cross-platform. This type of slide is in everyone's cross-plat framework talks, but it's true. There is a lot of potential for effort duplication depending on which platforms you want to target. You'd have to re-implement that logic for each individual platform depending on what you're doing if you're going fully native for each one. Another scenario is when you're trying to revive business applications and bring them like into the 21st century. This could lead to very high rewrite costs. And a lot of legacy apps now are actually being brought back to life into the web using things like WebAssembly, which is really, really cool to see. And you also need to take into account the skill set of your current team and the available training and dev availability for the technologies you want to use. So if you're a .NET shop and you're trying to build native iOS and Android, you have to get some Android developers, get some iOS developers and all that. And you have to really like focus in on those skill sets that you want to use. So Uno Platform is where we see it comes into this as the solution. So Uno Platform is what we'd like to call truly universal. And what is meant by that is that we think that WinUI is the best framework built from the ground up with responsiveness and adaptiveness in mind. So which means by leveraging WinUI, you can have something working on a small device all the way to a 4K large screen and everything in between. And so with Uno, we're building that bridge from this WinUI technology to bring it to all other platforms, making WinUI truly universal. And when we're saying truly universal, we also mean truly native. So we sit on top of the native stacks. We're not just drawing pixels all the time. And we want to make sure we get all those native behaviors, those gestures, those accessibility features, that copy paste, all those things you get natively from each of these platforms. So we sit on top of things like UIKit for iOS, AppKit for macOS, the Android Views engine. And we wanted to reach even more platforms and more backends. So we also leverage Skia as a backend to bring WinUI to even more platforms. So now WinUI can be bridged over to things like Linux and run, and you can develop WinUI applications that run in Windows 7 as WPF applications, things like that. And just to drive home again that we're truly native here, like we're sitting on top of the native frameworks and libraries. So if you were to use a text block, really what would be happening is we're sitting on top of Xamarin for iOS and Android. So you get the UI label and the text view, and then using WebAssembly, you get that HTML paragraph. And on Ski, obviously, we just draw the pixels on a canvas. So you kind of get the best of those both worlds of native and pixel perfect through the canvas drawing. And same thing with the platform APIs. You know, we have that setting storage API accesses the actual APIs from the individual native platforms as well. So there's no better way to talk about Uno than talking about it at the pixel level. So in 2020, we believe designers and developers should be able to control how apps look, even when using multi-platform frameworks. And that's really important to us. So there are multiple strategies in the market that try to do this in different ways. And I just want to talk about some of these strategies on the spectrum and where we see that Uno platform sort of lands within this spectrum. So at one end, you see this native rendering, and there's people creating abstractions on top of the native platforms, and they just let the native platform control the rendering without too much control over the way your views will look in the end. And at the other spectrum, you have this canvas rendering where you just basically slap a canvas on the screen and you draw every single pixel. And you may lose some native behaviors, like I mentioned, like maybe copy paste or localization or accessibility, like things like that, that are really important to us. Maybe lost when you kind of go that route. So we believe Uno fits really in the middle of both of these things. So it's really at the crossroads of native and pixel perfect. And this is done by relying on things that WinUI has to offer, like control templating, or the other name would be like lookless control. So basically, you can template your control and make it look however you want with using your styles, using the styling engine of WinUI. And this is just a quick timeline of how far we've come when we started, all the way from the inception of 1.0 to, you know, we got WebAssembly up on the ground, and the team was running around the show floor at Build, Microsoft Build, with a pre-release version of WebAssembly running Uno apps that we're showing everyone, and you know, just like lots of stuff. We have Lottie integration, reactive UI, Hot Reload, which I'll show in a second. And the list goes on. And as we move throughout the years, you know, now we have things like Prism integration. We have Xbind. We have Android 11 coming, and then we have and we have so much more coming in 2021 that I'm really, really excited about. And we're just hitting the ground running. So it's going to be really, really fun. So let's get into some examples and some code now. This slide has evolved over the years, and we're kind of running out of room now as we add more and more platforms to it. But just a very, very basic example. So this would be what your code would look like. You're writing normal WinUI or UWP like XAML as you would. And when you compile it, it looks the same across all platforms, and it's running on all these platforms now. macOS and Linux is here, and WebAssembly here as well. So this all just comes freely out of the box with the Uno platform. So really quickly, before we get into some demos, just some pointers about what you get out of the box with Uno. Like I mentioned before, that control templating with those lookless controls, data templating. Because we're sitting on top of WinUI, where WinUI Bridge, you get for free the WinUI styling and theming engines, native control integration. So if you have a native Android view or something that you want to just drop into your UI code, you can, as well as conditional XAML. So if you have certain views, certain properties of a view, certain whatever that you want to have exist for only certain platforms, you can prefix your property or your element in your XAML with iOS or Android or not iOS or blah, blah, blah. And it won't be rendered, or it will be rendered depending on which platform you target it towards. My thing's on the screen. As well as you add the animation engine out of the box, data binding, property inheritance. Xbind is a big one. And true to my heart, which I work on a lot, are shapes and brushes. So I work really hard on that. And you get all those shapes and brush implementations for free out of the box, as you would if you're just building a normal Windows WinUI app. And something that is very interesting and something that I really love about Uno is the assets and the localization. So for things like images or any asset, but let's talk about images. I'll show you the project structure of an Uno app in a second, but basically all your code, all your UI code, everything is in one shared application, and it's consumed by every single platform head that you want. So that means if you have images that you want to display in your app, you don't have to put them in the Android drawable HDPI, MDPI, XHDPI folders. You don't have to put them as an image asset in iOS and have the scaling at 2x, 3x. As long as you just place these in your assets folder in the shared project, Uno will take those and put them in the right place for you as your project builds. And if you use things like the scale suffix to scale 100, 200, 300 for different scaling for different densities, Uno knows how to interpret that and make it the proper at 2x, at 3x, or the proper NDPI, or put them in the proper NDPI, HDPI folder. And same thing with strings. So you just use the normal as you would a UWP resw file, and you don't have to worry about the strings.xml file or the IOSP list. It's all done for you, basically. So there's one central spot to deal with these things. And everyone's favorite is XAML Hot Reload. So you can modify a XAML application. You can modify the XAML of a live application. It supports iOS, Android, and WebAssembly. I think more now. This might be old. And it's supported in online environments like GitHub, which is what we use in our pull request system. So let's finally get into some code. So just quickly, it's going to be a really crappy demo, but it's just going to be a little demo for how we do hot reload. So I really hope you can still see my screen because I don't know. Yeah, you can see it. Okay, cool. So just basically, this is a small app. And if we were to look here, it's just going to be some shape that we draw and a path that we draw. And it has some colors and a stroke, just like you would in any other UWP application. And if you were to run this, it might take a second because my computer sucks. But if we were to run this and edit the XAML, you could see live, and I'm running the WebAssembly head of this. So you'll see a browser pop up and you'll see this ellipse and you'll see this path being rendered on the browser using WebAssembly. Hopefully it'll run eventually. And if I'm going too fast, I'm sorry. I'm just so scared of this fire alarm going off again. Let's look at can you write Uno and put them in the Windows Apple? Yes. So I'll show you some BizCAD from some, I'll show you some examples of some apps that we have that are in the Windows Store, they're in the Apple Store, they're in the Android App Store, they're everywhere. I'll demo them on the WebAssembly, but yes, they are available in the stores. This is taking forever. I'll just talk about the ecosystem quickly, and then we'll come back to that after it's loaded. I'm sure it'll pop up on my screen. Otherwise, I'm trying to talk about this. But basically, we have a large number of collaborations in the community that we're so proud of, like Reactive UI, the MVM Light Toolkit, Sync Fusion, Infragistics have partnered with Uno to support their controls. And we're doing lots of fun stuff with things like the Windows Community Toolkit, which is a really awesome community-driven thing that UnoNet does support, and it supports Uno, so that's really, really awesome. So we're really proud of all these collaborations, and there's even more on the screen. I don't know how the marketing guys probably are mad at me that I didn't update this screen properly. But yeah, there it is. So we have an Uno app running, loading. Sorry, my computer is very slow. Let's go. Okay, and then you see, you just see just an ellipse and beautiful tomato. So if I change this to blue, it might work. I might have to redo this again. Yeah. Oh, there you go. And it switches to blue. We can change the stroke thickness back to 1 like it was before, and there it goes. And change this path to blue as well. You can do whatever you want, really. If I want a bigger margin of 200, everything will move like that. So just a small example of some XAML Hot Reload that you can do, and running on the web using WebAssembly, and it does it perfectly. So sorry that took so long. Let's get back to it. So Fluent. So the Fluent UI design system now comes baked into the Uno platform. So every time you start a new app with Uno, you'll be able to get access to the Fluent UI design system and have it run and look the same across all platforms. So no matter what platform, you'll have that Fluent design look to it. And I know lots of people would probably next ask, what else do you have in there? And yes, we do have material. It does exist. It comes baked into Uno. And again, it's available across all platforms. And there's a sketch there that's available to get your designers started. Yeah, these are the two design systems that come sort of out of the box with Uno for free. So that's a really nice thing to have. And one of the apps that I wanted to show to highlight that Fluent UI and material design is this gallery app that the Uno team has released. So it allows you to see all the controls that are readily available to be able to toggle between them, between Fluent and material, to be able to toggle between light and dark mode. You can copy the markup of any of the examples and paste them into your app, and it runs everywhere. You could also see how you can style your apps to rely natively. You can also see how you can style your apps to rely on the native control rendering. So giving you full control if you do want to have per platform look for some of your widgets, that is available. So if we were to look, no, not pin. So if you look on the example of, so this gallery app is available on, say, the iOS App Store. So if you opened up that app, you'd see this native toggle along with the Fluent material themes, and that'll actually use the native control rendering and native styling for that control and make it look like it should if you were just doing it straight up native app. So I wanted to quickly show that Uno gallery app. So this is an app built to display Uno, and it's built with Uno. And we could take a look. Uno gallery. So this is the Uno gallery app. I could toggle between light and dark mode. I can toggle between light and dark mode, and it has material design UI, material UI, and Fluent that I could toggle between. There we go. So this is the Fluent design system. So everything, you have indeterminate checkboxes, normal checkboxes. The big thing to see is most notable are the toggle switches here. So this is the Fluent toggle switch. If I go back to material, you see them switch over to the material toggle switches, and they work. Everything works out of the box. It gives you a nice Fluent palette or material palette for semantic styling of all your, like how to name your styles and everything like that. And there's also material specific things. So it has stuff like a card in it, and it has, things like this, different types of cards, elevated card. You can't see it as well in night mode, but actions on your card. So this is all available. And if you ever wanted to see what this would look like in your application, how to do it, you can toggle right here. You can toggle to see the XAML, and down here you'd see basically what XAML is used to render. My little Zoom guy is being buggy. Yeah. Well, and so you just have this material card, and you set up its content with its different templates for the header and the subheader and all that fun stuff. So that's the Uno gallery. The next one I want to talk about is the Uno Platform Playground. So this is another app made using Uno in order to demonstrate Uno. And you get a lot of fun stuff out of the box. So you get this XAML editor, this live XAML editor, and this live data context editor, as well as the visualizer on the right here. So you can live edit your XAML and see what it looks like in WebAssembly on the right. And you have a lot of cool snippets you could play around with. So if we were to look at the Uno Playground, so how do I just hide that? Okay. So this is it. So this is your live XAML editor. If I were to remove some of this stuff, you see it's gone from the right side now, as well as the data context. If I add more items to the data context, I screwed something up. What did I do? Anyway, who cares? You also have those snippets. That's what I wanted to talk about. So if you had things like animations, if you wanted to see how animations work in WebAssembly, you have an animation snippet. If you wanted to make this run quicker, you change the duration. I changed this duration from 15 to 5, and we run it again, and off it goes. Oh, no, it takes a screenshot. Off it goes, going faster. And one of the really cool things I like about this is if you are trying to quickly prototype something, like say with the team at Uno, you have an issue with your animation, you don't know why it's not working. You could copy paste it into this playground and use this functionality here to save it as a snippet. So if I do that, it will generate a URL with a custom code on it. And you could just say, hey, here, look at my snippet on WebAssembly. How come it's not working? Or how am I supposed to do this properly? Or blah, blah, blah. So it's a really fun way to just kind of share some Uno code and demonstrate what you're trying to do. It's kind of like a little JS fiddle thing, but for Uno. Yeah. So that was the Uno playground. Next is a little project that we'll get into more code now. We'll look at the project structure. But this is a little app that I found. So I was playing around with the Surface Duo. And if you don't know what the Surface Duo is, it's Microsoft's Android phone that has dual screens, and it kind of closes on a hinge. It's like a book. And I thought, I was playing around with the emulator, and I thought it would be really cool to have a Pokedex app on the Surface Duo, because it kind of looks like a Pokedex, right, when you open it up. So I just Googled open source UWP Pokedex app, and I found this one on GitHub that was about 5 years old. It hadn't been touched in about 4 or 5 years, and it was by someone called Discloser. And I took it and I just plugged Uno into it and got it to run. It runs on all platforms, but I'm running specifically for Android right now. So if you want to look at the source code, it's here. That's the KAZ00 is my GitHub. I'll post it later. And then Dex Uno is the name of the repo. So if we were going to look quickly at that, we can look at it running now. Oops, Surface Duo emulators here. So I hope you could see that. But basically, this is the Surface Duo emulator, because I don't have a real one. If someone from Microsoft is watching, is interested in what I'm doing, and wants to send me a free Surface Duo, I'd be all on for that. But basically, it just has a list of Pokemon, and you can select your Pokemon. It doesn't do anything now because I hacked it around to make it work for dual views. But if you put this basically on both views, you have your detail view on the right, and you have your Pokemon on the left here that you could toggle through, and it gets updated, and you see all the information about the Pokemon you want. So it's like a little Pokedex app. But just imagine holding this in your hand. It'd be really cool to have on a Surface Duo. I find like a little Pokemon, like a little Pokemon adventurer. So if we were to look at the code for this, let's just look at the structure of the code of the solution. I mean, so you see here we have this project heads, and basically everything at first when I got this application lived in the UWP head, because it was just a UWP app of 4 or 5 years of untouched code living as a UWP app. You add Uno into it, and it automatically drops all these project heads into it, so you can run on all these platforms. Now, in our case, I'm running for the Surface Duo that I wanted to test, so we're targeting Android for some of my changes. But basically, it's available for any of these platforms if you so wish. And as well as that, everything that's UI based, so all of our UI code and all of that lives no longer in that UWP application head. If we look at it, that's basically empty. There's basically nothing in it. So if we were to look at the shared, that's where all of our UI code would live now. And this assets folder is what I was talking about before. So our assets live all in this one shared spot, and they're shared between all project heads. And Uno does the magic of taking those assets and putting them in the right drawable or image sets and stuff like that for iOS and all that fun stuff. So if I were to look, so this is where all my Pokemon live. So it's just one for each one. I only put the first 151 because those are the only real Pokemon in the world. The other ones are fake Pokemon. And so that's basically it. That's basically your project structure of an Uno app. And if we were going to look at, like, say, the main page that we have here, you'd see just normal XAML, like a normal UWP app. But I did some little edits just to have a 2-pane view. So this is coming from the Microsoft UI XAML controls. So this is a WinUI 3 or WinUI component that's coming, and you get that baked into Uno. So this comes to you for free. You don't have to download anything else. So with Uno, you get this, and we support these controls from WinUI. So it's using this 2-pane view. The first pane being that pivot. I'll show it again. Where is it? Yeah, the first pane being a list of the Pokemon, and like starts out with this pivot at the top here, so you can filter by different things. And the second pane is that Pokemon detail page that we see, where it shows more details about that specific Pokemon. And so it's basically all I had to do is you just plug Uno into it. There might be a few things that are not supported by Uno just yet, so you just like work around those or do whatever. And I just plugged in a 2-pane view here and put 2 of the pages that the disk loser created into the pane view, and it worked like a charm. So that was just a fun little project I did. There's still a lot more work I want to do and get some animations working and all that stuff. So, and again, because it's using those animations that are just from UWP, it just works on all those other platforms as well. Yeah. So this is just to give a little spiel about, like, this is something that is usable in the real world now. It's being used in production. Uno Platform is. We've been using it for years at at Inventive, where that's supporting Uno Platform, as well as people out in the community are using this for their applications. And this is just a small sample of some of our clients and some of the applications that we've worked on. We have use cases that are available to, if anyone interested in Uno Platform, you can reach out to us. We can show you some of the stuff that Uno is built with. And yeah, so there's just some big partners that we're really proud of that sort of, went with us, and we built Uno apps for them, and it's been working out great. So yes, it is a production ready thing. It's also still growing like crazy. So there's lots of stuff, lots of activity on our GitHub. So it's always evolving. I tried to go super fast, so I don't know how much time I have left, but I just wanted to say that if you were to give feedback on this talk, feel free at this URL here, and you'll be entered to get a draw of the Intro to Uno Platform course from Udemy, which is $30 usually US. But yeah, there'll be 3 prizes. I'm assuming 3. I don't know. So please feel free to give feedback on the talk. Good or bad. I know I blazed through this. I'm sorry about that. And next time I'll try and go slower, and we can look at some more code. But yeah, feel free to give some more feedback. I'll leave this up for a few seconds more if anyone wants to get down to that URL. But other than that, I'll be happy to take questions, and you guys can always follow me on Twitter. Just hit me up. I'm always trying weird things to do with mobile cross-platform development, and that's my GitHub as well if you want to follow along. And always feel free to jump onto the Uno Discord or the Uno GitHub and talk about some issues and bring up anything you want. We could always figure it out. So we're very responsive, and we love people in the community giving back. So always do that. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
And no further fire alarms. How about that?
God, that was horrible.
Well, it turned out great.
Yeah.
It did.
That was a bad start. Oh, I'm so happy it didn't happen again.
So we won't have time for Q&A because we're right about to announce the next speaker. But thank you so much for joining us. It was really fun.
Yeah, it was.
And I'm every time I see a talk, I get excited about it.
Yeah, I know.
I really need to try it out.
Definitely. Again, thank you so much, and great work. regardless of the fire alarm.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that, but yeah, thank you so much.